Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today's video would be the unboxing and review of the vintage collection Boba Fett Tatooine. This video is quite a momentous occasion because this is the first modern Star Wars figure that will feature the windowless packaging. And when recording this, I haven't even opened it yet, so it will capture my first impression of what's inside the box. Now, I am an out-of-box collector, so in my reviews, I usually don't spend much time on the packaging. But in this one, it will be a bit different because unlike the Black Series, which I usually collect, for the vintage collection, many collectors of this line stresses a lot on the packaging, so much so that many Q&A sessions I've seen with Hasbro will delve deep into questions about the cardstock, hole punch, and card images. Okay, so let's move on. This is the packaging, as you can see, with the image of what you will get inside, right? Since many Star Wars collectors are adults that grew up on old Kenner Star Wars figures, Hasbro is smart in continuing this trend, and it is interesting that in place of the plastic bubble, this packaging is more in tune with the classic look of the vehicle sets that the vintage collection is known for. It even has the explosive graphics for the special feature. And it's funny because when I first saw this packaging revealed several months ago, I thought for a second that this figure will feature a launching rocket. Now, for those of you who know Star Wars toy history, you know that the original Sent Away Boba Fett figure had the launching rocket that was immediately recalled because a child unfortunately choked on another toy. Now, that Boba Fett figure is a holy grail for many old school collectors, and from my understanding, it's about $16,000 right now it goes for. I'm not really sure, please don't quote me on this. On the same tune of the features, I have to say Hasbro really takes advantage of the real estate of the box to describe the figure in lieu of the bubble. So the side view over here features the unhelmeted Boba Fett. And on the other side is a different image. It features the Stormtrooper helmet accessories buried in sand. Of course, sand not included. And you can see in the back over here. So the back has the image of similar to the front, except the proportions here basically cuts off the top over here, which is smart. You know, I've done some graphics in the past before. This is a smart way of using the real estate. And then this serves as almost a packing list of what you get inside, right? So you get the figure, obviously, you get the removable helmet, the rocket, well, the backpack, the removable rocket, the flame effects. I wonder whether or not this thing actually goes all the way in there or it gets removed. I don't know, we'll see. And then you have the two blasters and the two helmet accessories. And then of course the bottom is just the legalese, but nothing exciting, but I guess it will free up more real estate for the back over here to feature. Let the customer know what's important, right? The important thing is to know what's inside the box. So previously, with previous releases, I know that the legalese come up to here. Now you have the advantage of showing everything over here, right? It is also worth noting that this figure is a deluxe figure, which incidentally doesn't say anything about this anywhere on the box. But my question is then, you know, whether or not this graphics would change, whether or not this will be different on the regular releases, right? Because I can imagine if it's regular releases, you know, you can imagine Greedo, right? He only has a little, like, he only has the figure and a gun, so it'd be kind of weird to just have a figure like this. So my guess is that this is only for the deluxe releases. Now let's compare with the traditional packaging, shall we? So what better way to do this than to have a cameo from Fett's good buddy, Fennec Shand over here. So for those of you who have concerns about how this will look with your other TVC figures, you be happy to know that the cards are exactly the same size, right? So you can see over here, the cards, if you could kind of zoom back, the cards are the same size. Trust me on this. I've lined it up here, right? And even the protrusion of the box lines up with where the bubble would have been. So if you have one of those, one of those display boxes that you want to protect this, I don't know how they go, but I would surmise that they probably leave enough room for this. So it will probably work for this one too, but don't quote me on this again. The cardstock is also a lot heftier now that you have two cardboards laminated together. Okay. So for those of you who has been getting the previous figures all bent up and out of shape from shipping, you'd be happy to know that, well, at least if you don't force it, like a lot of the employees in Walmart probably do, you'll probably be able to be more protected from those type of incidents. However, the hole punch is in a different place, right? So for those of you who hang your figures on a wall, I hope your hanger is adjustable so that your display don't end up misaligning. I can imagine the reason why the previous packaging has this offset is because of the weight distribution of the figures, right? So this goes up towards a little bit more towards the figure. So it will prevent that when you are hanging it, it will not tilt to the weight of the figure. Now that I would imagine that the contents of this box is probably evenly distributed within this box. Now the hole punch, it's on center, and it just looks better too. Like graphically, I mean, yeah. You could imagine it's more forgiving like this, but it would be kind of weird for the packaging to have the hole punch over here. So again, for those of you who hang it, I hope that it won't get misaligned when you're on the wall and stuff. So I also question whether the future releases will still have the painted image and the photographs of the characters that we are so used to now. You could tell Hasbro actually, graphically, Hasbro takes great pains to retain the proportion of the graphics. So everything still pretty much lines up, although the Star Wars over here logo is actually smaller, but you could tell that graphically it falls around the same size. Now that you have this thing over here, well, they kind of bend this up like this, right, graphically. I can imagine that if you were to fit a portrait over here, as you could tell, the head is usually lines up a little bit higher than the top of a bubble over here. You have to either shrink this in order to fit the character in here, or you will have to, I can't imagine him actually cutting off the character and then bending it around to do that. That would be just strange. I can't imagine they do that. So if you to say lower the character eye level, it will kind of be really strange, because then you get this and you get a lot of free spaces over here now that you have the bubble. Over here, the composition is that you have the bubble over here, the character over here, and some space over here. I can't imagine how they will be able to work in here where you don't have the bubble here anymore, and then it just looks very, very barren and empty. So I guess it's a graphical question that Hasbro design artists would have to face. My guess is that perhaps if they still really want to do the portrait, you still have the toy image on the front to let you know what you get inside. But if they really want to do a portrait somehow, they might have it in the back. But then you would also then have extra costs per figure, because they save all this money from not using plastic anymore. But then you would have to pay an artist extra money to be able to paint something in the back. And I can't imagine Hasbro doing that. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So my guess is for now, until they figure it out how they distribute the real estate graphically, or if they decided that the fans really still want some portrait of some type, I think for now you still have a repeat of the images in the front and back. But you can see how they handle the back over here previously, right? So previously they have the up and coming figures about what is to come next with this line. In here, they didn't have anything like that. So we might see a little bit variation of it differently in the future, but let's see. I don't have a crystal ball, so I can only predict from now on. So let's move on to the part what everybody has been waiting for, which is the unboxing. All right. Again, I haven't taken it out of the box yet, so you would get my first very candid reaction to it. Of course, without seeing my face. But all right, here goes. So I've cut this thing off, put it away. Don't let myself get cut. And then, sorry, this lighting, it's not very cooperating over here. Is this better over here? I can't lower it somehow. This might be a little bit better. But then it's on my knees. I can't, okay. Okay, you guys might just have to do with this terrible lighting. All right, so, okay. Of course, then you get this piece of paper. No, I'm not gonna read it. Here, here the box. You guys ready for this? First in the world. Hey! Okay, so you could tell. Drop stuff. I'll pick that up later. Maybe it's because of weight distribution thing I was talking about, but again, it's now. This is where it would have been otherwise, and I guess this is very economical. So it's interesting. So this thing is made of punch from the same cardboard, then rolled around and wrapped around the figure like so. It's kind of hanging there like, oh, help me, okay. Then they have tape and paper packaging like so. I guess they save a lot of money on just not having anything printed on a cardboard. Whatever. I can imagine. I could live with that. Okay, let's take the figure out. Okay, so. All right, you there? I can already see that there's a lot of tentacles over here. Don't worry, guys. I'll fix the lighting by the time I do the actual review of figures. But so this is like that. Okay, yeah. It was a little bit twisted around here, but yeah, I'll just take some time to mess around the figure afterwards. Okay, here, let me see. Let me remove that. Put the focus on this one. Have it stand up. Here we go. Okay, so I guess there's nothing special here. This is just basically the blaster, the other blaster. Yeah, they really went with, no, actually no, this is the rocket. Can this be removed? No, it can't be removed. Okay, let's see how it goes. So they really went all out with the no plastic, because this is just a piece of, packing paper. So this is the other blaster. And yeah, I mean, environmentally, I guess it will help with the environment. So thank you, Hasbro, for saving us. Okay, so the broken helmet. It's interesting enough. You could tell there's actually a. How should I point this out? Let me get my pointer over here. If you could tell right now, there's actually a ball joint in here. So I actually have my Stormtrooper on hand just to see whether or not I could fit this helmet onto the Stormtrooper. Now, okay, onwards we go. Yeah, here is the other one, right? So good thing is both of these helmets, they're not repeats of the same thing, which would be weird if that happens, right? You know, so I'm glad they actually went through troubles to do 2 broken helmets. And then the backpack over here. I can imagine this, and this is the helmet, L helmet, right? I'm going to do a comparison with that in a recent TVC release of Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett, but here is the other flame effects, right? So they really went all out. I mean, this is just packaging paper, and you know, and previously it would have been plastic bag, but they just completely went all out. Imagine they'll probably, in the end, they'll probably use even paper masking tape for the tape, but hey, you know, Hasbro is still not completely plastic free. What are you talking about? Right? So I'll come back, now that you've pretty much seen what it's like to be inside of the package, I will just put it away and set up for the figure review. So I got some time to play with this, and I've got to say, this figure really knocks it out of the park again. And yeah, TVC is just getting better and better and better. It even rivals the details that you would get sometimes on a Black Series. So let me just run this by. I kind of just fit everything onto this figure already, but again, let me take out the helmet and place it gently on the side. Well, and then take the gun away, and let me just kind of undress them in front of you right now. Ooh. Right? So all the accessories over here, the flame effects and everything. Let's push it over there. Sorry, it's just a pile of junk over there, but okay. So you could see Tim Morrison, the head sculpt over here, it's actually quite beautiful. And I'm amazed, like, they must have done his likeness many times before, especially with the new clone figures. But this one, the expression must be different from the other ones. You know what? Let me stop being so lazy. Let me just grab a clone figure and let me just kind of, let me grab a clone figure and I'll be right back. Okay, so this confirms my suspicion. My suspicion is that somehow it's the same as the Jesse head sculpt. And it is and it isn't. You could tell that the expressions are actually the same if you really look closely. They both have this very stern look, and I found out that it is in fact the same head sculpt, except in this case it is actually done a little bit bigger. And I could imagine that with computer technology, I'm sure there's a 3D file of this before, so I could imagine all they have to do is just print it slightly larger. And so my guess is that they actually had the same head sculpt, but then the files they just actually enlarge it, and this is what you get. Now, this is amazing because this is Captain Hauser, and also again a take on the Tim Morrison head sculpt, and it's different, right? And how can you be the same without just the awesome hair? Look at this, right? But yeah, it's a different head sculpt, completely different head sculpt, and I'm sure that maybe the clones from now on is going to start using some variation of this head sculpt, but this and this is pretty much comparable. So that goes to the head sculpt. So okay, back to this figure. As I've said many times in this video, this figure actually comes with extra accessories over here, right? So of course you get the removable helmet. Here's the Fett pistol, Boba Fett blaster, the rocket, removable rocket, and it's well noted that this rocket actually, the flame it's not removable from the rocket itself. The backpack. Now the interesting thing about this backpack is that this backpack is actually almost the exact same in proportion with this, except it's a whole new sculpt, because on the bottom over here, get a view of my stand, but on the bottom over here, see here, they actually articulate this. This is actually hollow, so that's strange. But as you could tell previously, this actually, interesting thing about this backpack is that this actually fits into, it fits in here, and voila, actually it fits pretty well. So let me see if I can do this. Part of the flame actually goes inside the backpack, so you have a nice snug attachment, and this is not going anywhere. So that's the backpack over here, right? And of course you get the two flame effects. Now I have complaints about this flame effects, but I'll go into it later. But the figure itself is absolutely awesome. I mean, Boba Fett is my favorite character by far, and ever since the original trilogy, and this will always be my Boba Fett, this look. And I'm sorry the show, I mean, I actually think the show is quite decent, but they could have done so much more with the character. But while this would always be my Boba Fett design, I am starting to really like this design too. When I first saw it, I thought it just doesn't look that great and all that stuff, but proportion-wise, this is actually similar. They don't have the dad bod for Tim Morrison, but I guess, yeah, it's fine. It's a good omission. It's quite flattering. And looking at this comparison, it seems like proportionately these two figures, the torso is the same. In fact, the articulation is the same. Not the articulation, but the way they kind of made everything. The proportion is exactly the same, except it's a new sculpt, because in here you see how there's this part over here. This is actually a lot different. And this sculpt, actually the scarf over here, is fixed to this central part. And this part, this is interesting. The shoulder pads over here, you see that over here? This part is actually attached to the torso also, but it's done in soft plastic, and it's actually part of it, except over here you could remove it. So the articulation, you'll be able to make way for that, right? Interestingly, if you compare the two, the shoulder pads are actually, this is a lot larger than this one. So even though it looks like, now actually, you know what, now looking at it, it just looks, actually, Tim Morrison actually got shrunken as he got older, which is good, you know, good news. So this torso is actually slightly, if you could tell, it's actually slightly smaller than this, right? But you get this figure over here, and I gotta say, like, the detail on here is absolutely awesome. Now, with this pipe over here, it is a bit exaggerated how far it came out. Like over here, you look at the previous figure, even in a straight pose, it's actually different. But considering that it has to be different because it comes from the top over here, whereas this one comes from the side over here, this is actually quite a lot. But I can imagine most people would be posing it with the elbows bent to accommodate the rifle. So I could totally agree with this decision to make this longer. It's totally fine as a toy, right? It has to work. And I think this is a good thing. And then let me see, the sculpt of the pants is not too much detail. Over here, let's take off this pants over here. Woo! Okay, so what you have here is that the legs, the fabric is quite smooth. They didn't go all out to do the graphics of this, to articulate the folds of the fabric, but it looks serviceable. I might actually, you know what, I might later on have to pause this video and check on the accuracy according to which version of Boba Fett it is, because from my understanding, there's many different versions of when he was in Tatooine, when he was in Morak, and so on and so forth. So I've got to check whether or not the accuracy of that is to par. But the paint over here, the paint app is okay. I am looking at it right now with my naked eye, and from what I could tell, it is yeah, there's not nothing glaring over here. So let me check. So yeah, the way they did the knees, I mean, this is a complete new sculpt, obviously, from that one, because the knees are attached over here. Nothing is reused from the previous Boba Fett, from what I could tell. And yeah, this figure is just absolutely beautiful. I'm just so amazed at how great the TVC has gotten until now. Of course, you have the skirt over here, or part of his robe. I'm sure that Hasbro has a lot of experience doing commas right now, so it seems like it's probably somehow it's attached with one, like a piece of cloth is attached independently, and then you have the belt that goes over here. All right, but first impression of this figure is it is absolutely beautiful. I love it. There's some problems with it I'll get into later, but so far I'm liking it very much. So next is the removable helmet, and I've got to say they did a really good job with this. So this is a removable helmet. Again, the paint app. It is, so I guess this is a Tatooine version, which is what you get from Book of Boba Fett when you first started. So this is not the freshly painted version, but it's starting to accumulate some some things in wear and tear. All right, so the reason why I think this helmet is so good is two things. First of all, when you fit it on, it's a nice snug fit, but it's not. It goes in and out very comfortably. It fits like a glove. It's just so good, and then it doesn't come loose or anything. And the great thing about it is that, okay, look at these two over here. They are essentially, from what I could tell, almost the same exact thing. I mean, this one is flared out a little bit more. This will always be my Boba Fett proportion because it's flared out towards the bottom over here. But this comes super close to it. The viewfinder is not movable, which I don't expect it to. Although from what I heard, the Mandalorian TVC, which I've got also, I haven't unpacked it yet. From what I heard, they actually got the viewfinders able to articulate. But in this case, I think it's fine. I'm not going to pose it with the viewfinder down. So, but I'm loving this helmet. I mean, look at this. Right. So I've been giving Hasbro a lot of slack recently about some of the corners that they've cut. But for this figure, I'm very impressed. I really like it a lot. And so the backpack. The backpack, it's, let me see how it's done in previous Boba Fett. But from my understanding, it's also the same, right? So, yeah, as I've suspected, it's got this kind of shape to it, which makes sense, so that when you put it on, let me put it on now, it wouldn't swivel, it wouldn't tilt, right? And the backpack, again, fits very snug, nothing's falling out. I just like it because nothing disturbs me more than figures that you have pieces falling out all over the place. So let's see. So I guess you can't really, unless if you really tilt it, and you can't really pose this figure like this. Right? But as I said before, it's done very nicely over here. It's a nice snug fit. And yeah, this figure, let me put on the gun. This figure is just absolutely amazing. There's nothing that stands out to me that's wrong. You know, it could hold the blaster pretty normally, not super well, but normally. It doesn't fall out. And then this blaster fits in here. It should be quite snug, right? Sorry, I'm not really paying attention to the video right now. I'm too busy playing with this figure. So, okay. Sorry, here you go. This is the figure. Now, this is great, but on with the gripe is the flame effects for this. It just doesn't want to fit in there. And once it fit in there, it just doesn't it just keeps on falling out. So if you want to have it constantly be posed with the flame, I'm sorry, but this thing is just not be. It just doesn't want to fit. But for me, I'll be okay with it. This will probably just go in my accessories box. But for those people who are looking forward to be able to do flight poses and all that stuff, this part is done pretty horribly. Let me try it. Maybe, yeah, it just doesn't want to stay. Well, it stayed a little bit, but again, a little movement, a little bump, this thing will be off. So you probably lose that part. So that is one of my major gripes. But other than that, the figure itself, look-wise, it's just absolutely amazing. So my next segment would be on the articulation. All right. So the articulation, it's got some flaws in it. It can't look up that much. So for those of you who wanted to have the Boba Fett flight pose where he's flying and stuff, I guess maybe you have to do, yeah, it just doesn't, you can't have it look up like that, which is quite disappointing, I can imagine. But again, it doesn't, I'm probably not going to be posing him that way. So for me, it's not that good. But and then looking down, you have this, right? You could look down like this, up like that. Of course, can it tilt? Let me see, can it tilt? Well, it can't. It could tilt this way on the helmet. But for the head, once you put the helmet on it, it's not so apparent. You could kind of do it, but you know, you can have wiggle the helmet a little bit back. Yeah, so you want to have a perplexed looking Boba Fett, you know, you could do it somehow, but the default tilting is actually not that much. Of course, you could then turn around, exorcist, yep. The arms, you know, this part over here is quite genius, this part over here, because you could then allow for the arm to go up a little bit higher. Of course, you know, then you'll have this awkward thing that you have this awkward little thing over here, but it's not so noticeable if you're standing afar. So Leonardo da Vinci, yep. And then of course the arm, given the shoulder pads, you could move it up quite a lot, but you can't just completely have it like straight up like that. Can you? No, you can't. So you can't like pose the arm completely straight up. But then over here, they could go quite far that way. And then the swivel actually, like most TVC figures, actually happens here. It doesn't have a line over here with the Black Series. So the swivel happens on the level of the elbow, right? And then, of course, you have the hands that goes all the way around. For the wrist, it's kind of strange. You're supposed to be able to rock it side to side, this way. But there's a joint for it, but looking at it, I can't really move it that much. I have no idea why. But yeah, I mean, there's some give to it, but it's not such a big articulation that you can really rock it from side to side. And again, on the other one too, it's supposed to be able to rock from side to side, but it doesn't. So it might pose some problem if you want to hold the rifle a certain way. But yeah, that's a small nitpick. But it works fine. Ironically, the arm pads over here, and I can notice it on show too, is actually again, similar to Mandalorian, is of the Shore Trooper. And I could understand on Mandalorian because the character itself is probably a scavenger, and his outfit is pretty much a hodgepodge of different things, so he might have killed the Shore Trooper and used the pads. But I was actually quite surprised when I watched the Boba Fett show that he has the same exact hand pad too. So I don't know, I guess there's a lot of Shore Troopers to go around to kill and stuff and to appropriate that part. Anyways, that's kind of a side note. The legs actually, again, the joint happens here, and then you could get quite a good forward movement. Back, you would start to begin to rotate back that way. You can't go straight back. But then again, I'm trying to do that on my own, and yeah, that is just not natural. So this is all right. So, and then the knees actually bend about, let me see, a good 90 degrees bent, right? But you're not gonna get anything more than that. So again, those of you who are hoping to get a really extreme, like Spider-Man like pose where you get the high angle, you won't be able to do that one here. The ankles, the normal fare, what they have usually now. There is rocker angles over here, but it's, yeah, you could do there's rocker angles. The torso, not too extreme. Actually, it's got a pretty okay crunch, but not a lot. I mean, this isn't Spider-Man, so it's got a pretty standard articulation, and it's okay. But yeah, so that's pretty much the articulation. So size comparison, I decided to put him next to figures that you most likely pose him next to. So height-wise, Boba Fett and Boba Fett is actually the same height, which is good, you know, because it would be strange if you pose them next to each other and one of them is smaller than the other one. So I can understand that. Next to Fennec Shan, I don't really know what the actor's actual height is, but my guess is that Fennec Shan might be a little bit shorter. So this seems to be accurate. Nothing that's, well, let's put it this way, nothing that stands out as strange in this case. With a Stormtrooper, you could tell the Stormtrooper here, I actually fit the damage helmet on the Stormtrooper. Same with the other one. And the Stormtrooper is actually looking at this on the camera. Again, nothing that screams out differently. The Stormtrooper is slightly taller than Boba Fett itself. And of course, next to the ARC Trooper, of course, the ARC Trooper is actually a lot smaller for some reason compared to every single other figure. So in this particular case, it's no different. It's going to be a bit smaller. But just to let you know, size comparison, all you have to know is that it wouldn't stand out like a sore thumb. It will fit with the rest of your collection. All right, so final thoughts on this figure. As you guys have already been able to tell by my review, I absolutely love this figure. I mean, for those people who are Boba Fett fans, like me, I'm very happy with it. Still, as I said, the original Boba Fett figure is, the original Boba Fett design is still my favorite. But I'm starting to really, this design is really starting to grow on me. And I think Hasbro has come up with a beautiful representation of it. As I said many times also, that the vintage collection really comes a long way, because in several cases, they're even more screen accurate and even more detailed than the Black Series figure. And yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I don't know what else to say about this. Well, I mean, I'm sure the people who want this figure or pre-ordered are going to get it. I'm not here to convince anybody to get this figure. However, this is quite a momentous occasion again because of the windowless packaging. I'll probably be throwing away my package pretty soon, but yeah, like, you know, for people who likes to keep this stuff in package, I'll be happy to say that this is actually quite an achievement. And I'm sure the people who collect these things will probably get 2 copies, one to open and one to display, and maybe even 3, you know, as Saturday Night Live says, one to open, one to display, and one just in case. So anyways, thank you again for tuning into this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, you know, I'll see you in the next video.